So it's a time, package from China time, or at least, don't ask me what happened to the box. It's absolutely horrible. Hey, welcome back to the channel. It's awesome that you're tuning in. In today's video, we are going to take a close look at the brand new product fresh from China. So this is called the Super Console X8. And this is an all-in-one solution if you want to play retro games. But now we don't have those cheap game boxes anymore. Nope, we're getting more of a PC with Batocera. They promise us a lot of cool things, but is it really worth it? And is it true what they're saying? And what they're saying? Let's chit chat about it first. So this is one of those many devices that they sell, and the prices are getting really cheap now. So all the way from like 60-70 euros to over 100. Mini PC solutions are all kinds of different form factors, but this one, oh man, this really appealed to me. I love these translucent cases. Unfortunate, oh, I just see that there's a crack in here, or is this normal? Oh, it looks like normal, doesn't matter. In the end, when you're looking at this, no, this is not, no, it's a crack. No, it's totally destroyed. Oh. However, this thing looks kind of cool. So it does have an on-off switch because it does actually be a PC in the inside. But what kind of specs is this thing actually running? That's what we're going to be finding out. They implemented over here the hard drive, and they used two long screws, so that's something we need to be fixing in the future. It only comes with single RAM, an overall nice construction for the CPU cooling, with a lot of different exhaust left and right, so that is great, and the overall construction looks kind of cool. Also, they have different configuration, and what do we mean different configuration? With this version came with the PlayStation 2 wireless chemical fake controllers. So we have different cases, and I don't know if they're all exactly the same, but some of them even come with those Xbox 360 clone controllers. The controller quality is not bad at all. We're having over here two analog sticks that have a very nice rubber compound, because the cheap one most of the time have like plastics, a knob switch, and over here a battery compartment. And we're going to be needing two AAA batteries. Then of course the box with the power supply. An HDMI cable. Oh, he even gave me the converter that I'm going to be needing. That is nice. There's this 12 volt 3 amp. But what are we getting when it comes to the connections? An input for the power supply, HDMI out, VGA out, 4 USB ports, an RJ45, and we're having over here 2 jack ports. One for the microphone I'm not going to be using so far, I know, and having a separate audio. So it's kind of convenient if you want to plug in something else, like a different, let's say, amplifier, you can just do it through here. There's no optical out on this mini PC. Oh boy. Okay, so this is not a good start. I've booted up the device itself. That's been powering on. I don't have an idea that this is booting up the hard drive itself. But the first thing that we're going to be doing is opening it up, because I have no signal whatsoever. Yeah, I don't know what it is with you when you're buying these products, but I can tell you this is not something new. I have been seeing this so many times. So the first thing that we're going to be doing is removing the top plate. Let's see if we can just find the issue. The weird thing is no HDMI connectivity, but it's so weird because this thing seems to be actually booting up, the fan is spinning, and there are not a lot of things that we can actually mess up with this. Alright, so let's open it up. I cannot have the idea that this thing is actually going to be booting up the hard drive. There's still an NVMe or an M2 in here, an SSD, so let's reset the BIOS and let's check out if we can manage to fix the issue. So the first thing that we can actually do is opening up this, removing the battery. That's just a basic setup when it comes to PCs or like a problem-solving situation. Let's put it back in and let's power it on again. That's the first thing I wanted to check out. Still have the idea that the hard drive isn't spinning at all. So another thing I can do actually is like booting it up without the hard drive. Let's unplug this to see if this gives any problems. Let's try that again. Let's see if having at least some signal going on. But I also don't hear any bleep. So resetting didn't work. We have removed the hard drive. The only thing I can do now is like trying to get ourselves this M2 drive loose. I have still no idea why there is an M2 drive in this thing. because we're going to be using Batocera most of the time, or they're going to be using a different operating system. Alright, so let's plug it back in. And let's see if you're going to be having any luck now. That is one of the couple of things you can do if you have any problems whatsoever when it comes to a PC in general. But I can see from the LED or the mirror over here from the LED that this thing doesn't work. So that is an issue. Yeah. Okay, so the final thing that we can actually do with remove the power supply is reseating the RAM module. Maybe this has gotten loose in the transport, I have no idea. But oh man, this thing is really difficult to remove. I don't know what's going on with this, because it's something I have personally never experienced. So there was no damage. You can actually see that. Let's zoom in a little bit, that we do have some wear and tear on the driver, so I can actually maybe clean up if this still gives issues. But let's first reseat it. Okay, so what you need to do is try to slide it in. There we go. Let's plug it in. And let's boot it up. And let's check out if everything is going to be booting up. Haha! We have the bleep and we have ourselves the LED going blue on my monitor. So that means, yep, we do have ourselves something going on. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is putting it back together. And we did unplug the hard drive, so I'm wondering if this thing is going to be booting up into this. Man, what a weird construction it is. Let's check out. Alright. Let's plug this in the right way. I do hear the hard drive booting up. And this needs to be the problem solving for today. Alright, so let's see. Let's boot it up. Controller has been plugged in, ready to go. Or at least I was thinking it was ready to go. Ah, there we have it. Will it boot up into the Windows or the software that's going to be needing to get this thing to work at least? I did hear the bleep. I do see the thing going, flickering on the screen, but so far no boot. So we did manage to get this thing to work, but let's leave it here for a couple of, let's say, minutes and see if it's going to be booting up into Windows, or otherwise get a keyboard and let's get into the BIOS. Keyboard has been plugged in, so let's see. Boot sequence. Okay, and it has been set to the SATA, so that isn't need this is kind of weird. Oh no, it hasn't been enabled to the SATA. So it doesn't recognize the hard drive. So the hard drive is not enabled somehow. I already mentioned before that it didn't spin up. And this can be to do with the power outage. So I can get myself maybe some different converters. But that's kind of weird. I plugged in like it should be, but somehow it doesn't get the disk spinning. It also gives the idea why this thing doesn't boot up at all. Okay, so that explains. So we have no way of basically getting this thing into the Batocera image. Secure boots, and here having the chipset and anything else, 4 gigs of RAM. But that's it, you know, there's nothing much to see, so that's quite annoying. So let's give this thing a couple of reboots and let's see if we can get ourselves the hard drive pinned off. We can also get ourselves the USB, plug it in there and see what happens then. So the weird situation is that we do have a SATA going on over here. It shows the hard drive, but it doesn't show anything at all. So I also don't have the idea that this thing is getting any power. I think that's going to be the general problem. So what we can try is to get a voltage meter to see if this thing is even giving some voltages. Okay, so let's see what happens and let's plug it in. And let's see the yellow cable having 12 volt, and with the red one we're going to get ourselves 5 volts. So when it comes to the hard drive, there's an interesting situation. So this thing will have power, but it doesn't do anything at all. So I'm guessing the hard drive is completely dead, or there's a problem with the connection. So let's go to the external option. Somehow it doesn't boot up through the normal hard drive over there. So I was figuring out maybe if you have like the Windows installed, they did some wicked shenanigans when it comes to software, maybe coin ops, you know, you never know what you're getting with these devices. But we're just getting ourselves the boot error every single time. I'm trying to boot up from the hard drive itself, And if you're going to be booting up from here, it just keep like the flashing icon over here and doesn't do anything. But the next thing we're going to be doing, hooking up a different Batocera drive. So it seems to be this configuration of the original system don't work. I have no idea what's going on. I've been messing with the settings, maybe due of the reset I've done, but in the end this thing doesn't work out of the box. So let's see what we can actually do with this mini PC. We're going to be slapping an own Batocera image on it. Okay, everything has been set up and it was still like a lot of shenanigans, simply because when you're looking at, let's say, the device itself, I'm almost thinking it was going to be freezing up, but I had the problem that they didn't have any audio throughout the HDMI somehow, so I slapped on some extra speakers. So ready to go, so let's do a quick look into the specifications now. With Batocera there is absolutely so much stuff that we can play, but where all the old stuff will run just fine, I think when you're looking at, let's say, the higher end stuff, that is what I want to focus on, because those cheap game boxes before they were reviewed, like gazillion different ones of them, had all kinds of issues. So it will be interesting to see how I also can play PlayStation 2. I don't know exactly how the original configuration was with the SSD and the hard drive that went in. Maybe it was like a different configuration with Windows and some, let's say, hyperspin whatsoever, but that didn't work. So we're going to be using that now with some Batocera. System settings and information. What are we getting when it comes to the specs? So this thing is getting around 43 degrees. And yeah, it's still completely like tear down, but the effect will not be like super negative when it comes to, let's say, putting this thing back together. Okay, at Intel Cell CPU and 1337U. So it's a very old, let's say, overall specification list with the Intel HD graphics 2500. So specification wise, this thing is not something very interesting, but let's get into some gameplay, but also particularly when it comes to, let's say, some PlayStation 2, because I'm curious if you can play PlayStation 2 with a very cheap machine like this. So let's just start off with some basic Sega 32X. And I can tell you that with around 50 FPS this runs just fine. I'm guessing this is just a PAL file that we're using, so that's the reason why it's 50 FPS and not 60. But besides that, everything seems to be working just fine, and yeah, you don't pay a lot of money actually for these game boxes now. And if you just want to get into some basic gaming, this runs just perfect on this. But let's move on to some other stuff. Okay, and when you're looking at some different like 16-bit, it doesn't matter what kind of, let's say, game you're actually going to be playing, everything runs just fine. However, I do wonder how it is with Panasonic 3DO. Is it going to be an overall, let's say, good experience, because we did have a lot of problems, and the same goes for the Atari Jaguar. But we don't need to forget we're running on really old, let's say, CPU Intel chipset, so these things, I don't know, man.
Looks lost out there. Wipe out.
But if we go to see if this can run some Sega Saturn, these chips are not powerful enough, and this is just a great example. Running around 30 FPS, Sega Saturn is completely unplayable. Just wanted to check out how the Dreamcast emulator itself runs. What's kind of cool that we do have ourselves a rumble function.
Emergency formation. Intercept intruder.
But also Dreamcast seems to be running just fine. So moving on with some Sega Naomi, and this seems to be running quite nice. I've been seeing this thing dipping to the 55 frames per second, but the overall gameplay experience is quite good. But if you just want to play some PlayStation 1, it's just going to be fine. Trying to be upscaling it is not a good idea, because that mini PC we're using now is not powerful enough. A little bit of a downside, because we do have like better options now that have the option to upscale. So where PlayStation 1 will look so much better, but out of the box with native resolution, it runs just fine. It's a lot of fun to revisit those games. I must say they look absolutely horrible if you look at them. But moving to the PlayStation 2, where they promise to have good overall emulation, or at least with the original configuration, if you're going to be slapping a Batocera image on there, no, this is not going to be a very pleasant experience. Just wanted to play some Burnout. Man, this is such a cool like overall franchise. But you can just see that this is running on such a low frames per second. This is just completely unplayable. And I'm not surprised at all. I don't know how they did an original configuration, but these mini PCs are so old. It is great to actually play some Sega Naomi or maybe some Sega Saturn, but also there we will find a lot of limitations. And with PlayStation 2, you can just see that it is completely unplayable. Another system I'm really looking forward is trying out some PlayStation Portable, because that's another system that is quite demanding. But the first game I'm actually grabbing, it seems to be working just fine. And you can see that we set to the 30 FPS. Some of the games were only like running on 30 FPS. It's using 100% of the CPU GPU combination, or at least like the chip inside, but it is still playable, so that's kind of cool. So yeah, more demanding games like and God of War will not work at all at this, but we do have the option to actually play these games. So that's kind of cool. Okay, so moving on to the Panasonic 3DO, a system that don't run at all, or at least great on those, let's say, other devices that we've tested out, particularly like the game boxes. But it seems to be that this game is playable with 43 FPS. Oh, dipping to 47. You can see that it does struggle. It struggles big time. There we go, dipping all the way. Oof. 40. Okay, outside of the Jaguar, that is something completely skipped out when it comes to game system, but I just wanted to see how this is actually running. So Atari Jaguar does have some cool games. Some of them are so bad they're actually fun to play, but it's quite unfortunate on this older mini PC it doesn't run at all with 36 frames per second. This is not the overall experience you want to have with these older games. So you can see where the limitation exactly were with, they say, the older Android box that we've reviewed with Emulation and now with the Batocera. It's absolutely horrible, and a lot of more demanding systems does struggle with this. Moving to do some Atomic Wave with, of course, Dolphin Blue, one of my favorite Metal Slug clones. This is such a fun game to play, but not on this way, because look at this, like 31 frames per second, same struggling that we've seen before when it comes to those cheap game boxes. So that makes no sense whatsoever to actually get this. It struggles, the audio sounds horrible. No, it's not a fun way to play. What I do really wonder is like how will N64 run on the mini PC? Because N64, where it's not like the best like retro system ever released, it does have a lot of cool games that we can play alone or together with friends. Okay, so the overall emulation performance on native resolution is quite good. It seems to be running on 26 frames per second, if I need to believe the frames, the frame per second counter. Going to 30, I can hear a small dip, but the game is playable. Particularly I'm always using like Cruise in the USA, this game struggles. If this game runs, a lot of other ones will run fine too. So that's just great to see and very interesting. So where we have a lot of problems with other systems, if you just want to play N64, this cheap solution can be an interesting one to get on native resolution. Be clear about that.
Your dance cuts through enemies.
You can see that it struggles with GameCube. But the overall performance is so much better than the PlayStation 2 so far. Oh no, I spooked too soon. Yeah. But it's interesting to see that it actually runs. We have overall better performance. The PlayStation 2 was completely unplayable. Maybe with a simple two-dimensional game we will have overall better performance, but yeah. But if you just want to play some, let's say, basic games, 8-bit, 16-bit, and also when it comes to some arcade, there is a lot of stuff we can actually play. So, where we have a lot of limitation with MAME, I do wonder that we can even play some Tekken and Killer Instinct. Okay, I can tell you already, so out of experience, that Tekken Tag, the really demanding games of MAME, will not run on this mini PC too, because we do need a lot of power for that. And of course I'm going to be needing to test out if Killer Instinct of MAME runs, and yep, it does. I think that is one of the coolest things that we're having with those mini PCs compared with those Emulation devices, that we can actually play the old school classics like Killer Instinct on MAME. And some second MAME. This is a game that I think it's so cool. Man, it's kind of interesting to see that how superior the arcade game still was compared with the PlayStation 1, where they're absolutely like both are great to play. But if you're going to be getting into the Tekken Tag, that doesn't run on a PC like this. But still, it's a great extra addition. And I'm getting my ass kicked by Nina today. Oh yeah. But out of the box, yeah, it's absolutely a nightmare. That's in fact. So it shouldn't be, because when you're looking at the Batocera image I'm using, it's just fine, you know, it works, plug and play, and automatically boots up. Don't know what you're going to be doing over here with this hard drive and this, let's say, SSD, this configuration. It's going to be trying to boot up into the hard drive and didn't do anything. So no idea what's going on over here. Yeah, when it comes to overall emulation performance, we did see like a lot of stuff seems to be working just fine, but we do have a lot of limitations. Thank you all for watching, consider subscribing, and it will be great to see you in the next video.